This episode of the Zero Cafe podcast is made possible by our partners, Online Influence Institute and VWO. Today I talk with Steen Rasmussen, who is the co-founder of RH Nordic and an international keynote speaker in digital marketing and analytics. He stands out in the field because he has a much more commercial focus than you'd normally expect from an analytics nerd. And he's very much into big thinking, networking, community building. And he's absolutely not afraid to share every single thing he knows. And today we're going to talk about data activation and supercharging the customer journey with analytics data. In case you missed the previous episode, I spoke with Eden Bidani about copywriting, and you can listen to that episode on www.zero.cafe or in the podcast app you're listening with right now. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 15. Steen, welcome to the Zero Cafe podcast. Even welcome back to the Zero Cafe podcast. We spoke to you earlier at an eMERS event in 2019. I spoke to you like 3 weeks ago for eMERS, another eMERS event, the eMERS Google Analytics user conference, where we did a recording. But for those of us, of the listeners that don't know you yet, could you introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, so originally, where do I start? I've been doing analytics as part of my core focus for a long time, right? But actually, when I go further back, I started out doing usability and moved into Crow that way. So that was kind of where I started. We had the idea, I started an agency 20 years ago where we wanted to say we saw too many websites being made too much with the users in focus and not enough with the business. So we wanted to do something different. So we started optimizing websites, and we're actually doing it when we for the first time heard about conversion rates. So actually my optimization days go back even before there was a phrase called conversion rate, or maybe we didn't discover it until then. So that's kind of the history.
We didn't know the term yet.
No, actually. So the term, and then I remember we were really excited when the term came out. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But from that perspective, I am a data-driven person. I'm a hyper nerd when it comes to analytics. And for me, measurement is part of the core. And it's also why I like conversion rate optimization, because it is like measurable communication. So it is a place to understand, to see, are we communicating better or more precisely, and then work from there. So it makes a lot of things much more operational.
And you mentioned in your bio that you stand out from the crowd because you're like I said, you're an analytics nerd, but you also are able to make that turn it into business sense, into business communication. It sounds to me that apparently analytics folks are not good at that. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I would agree. Analytics folks have a tendency to focus too much on the data and not enough on what the data is supposed to do. So you're kind of like you're the accountant that looks at the numbers but don't really necessarily work on improving them. So because your responsibility ends with the numbers coming in, and then you can hand them over to somebody else. There's a concept I've stole from Aurélie Paul, which is reporting as an alibi. So you give somebody the report, and that kind of ends your responsibility. And if somebody comes and say, "Hey, have you seen this?" Yeah, I gave you the report 3 months ago. So why are you first coming now? So that's where I see analytics and then the data side actually being not commercial enough and not taking enough responsibility for creating results.
Yeah, and it's incredibly hard to give those advice and to even look at data if you don't know the business side, right? I mean, you can. There's so much data in many companies right now, and if you don't know the business problem that you want to solve, you also have no idea what data to take to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this idea about having the data and actually looking at it from a business perspective or as a result-driven thing, that is where analytics needs to get more inspired by Crow. So having that objective. And it's fun because you will be looking at organizations and you'll be saying, yeah, but if we have a data department and we gather data and we do all this stuff, then we're data-driven. But in reality, very often the analyst will not be driving the data anywhere. The people driving the data are the Crow people and the SAO people and the SAM people. They're really the people taking the data and doing something with it, right? So the other guys, the analytics guys like me, are in a lot of cases just middlemen. So handing the data over to somebody who's supposed to do something with it. And that makes it less valuable, what we do. We need to the analyst needs to kind of change the mentality from being an analyst to being a data-driven business developer.
Well, what would your advice be for someone listening to this? Hey, that's me. I push those reports out every 3 months. I give someone a report on bounce rate and call it a day. Would your advice be to better communicate with zero people or become someone like that? Or
I think the first that I've been teasing with this question a long time, saying do a self-reflection, right? So saying, so why did somebody hire you? And that goes for all specific roles in an organization. And the answer is always the same. Everybody got hired because the company saw it as a better investment than hiring somebody else, and a better investment in relation to creating some results that were supporting the business. So if you reflect on that, saying, okay, if somebody hired me as an investment, am I generating value for the organization? Am I being a positive investment? And to do that, you have to align saying, so what does the business need? Right? And very often that means that you, as an analyst or in any other position, actually have to look at what is the organization trying to achieve. So I think that is one of the big overlaps, starting by saying, what is my role here? What value am I supposed to be creating? Because very often we end up in a situation where saying, I am the master of the dashboard. That doesn't generate any value. That's just pushing more information. Or I am the reporting master. You can ask me, I'm the oracle. You can ask me anything related to the website. I will answer. But that doesn't create value. That's very reactive. So how can we push a proactive agenda when it comes to data? That's suddenly where the value would be generated.
And I guess that's good career advice for anyone, right? Just to step back and
exactly.
How do I create value for the company?
Yeah. But I think for analysts, it's just we've been so focused on getting good numbers, and that has kind of been my mission, is to deliver 100% data quality. 100% data quality has no value unless it's being used for something. Right? Saying, okay, cool. So I will do 1 million user tests on this website, but I will never tell anybody anything about it. And I will never come up with any suggestions. Have I created any value?
Yeah.
It's like hiring a tool like, what's it called? One of the heat map tools.
We have Usabilla, we have Hotjar.
Yeah, exactly. So you install Hotjar on your site and you go enterprise and you buy the big version, so you can track everything, but you never look at it. Have you created any value? No. Yeah. It's like it has to be, you have to use the data for something to create value. And that's kind of where the chair I've been sitting on, standing on, basically yelling that we have to create value to justify our role in the organization.
So rather go for 80%.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So the key thing is going for, when is it good enough? Right? When is my data good enough for action? So instead of trying to push for 99% perfection and saying, if it's good enough at 85 and I can make data-driven decisions, then I should go there. Then I should just focus on maintaining the quality and not trying to keep improving it.
But then how do you, I think an argument I also use, and I think many of us use, many analysts use, is that if people don't trust the data, I'm not gonna change anything. If all people do is ask me, okay, but your data is incomplete, or your data isn't completely accurate, or whatever, then you also won't get your point across.
If we go back and you look at an organization, then you will have like marketing have been out doing a survey or asking people something, and the guy presenting that data, which is probably just as flawed as any analytics data you have, he will present that like this is a universal fact. It sometimes it's just us as an analyst that has a tendency to to kind of start by excusing that this was gathered on a Tuesday, so we cannot generalize it across the entire world. And besides that, at this specific time, it was a holiday in Israel, so the data might not be completely precise.
And just before you do that presentation, or just after you did that presentation, there's someone from the brand marketing team
exactly
claiming all big things based on a research no one's ever seen and no one will ever see. That's just based on 50 people in a certain city.
yeah. A question he asked on Twitter saying, "Yeah, I've done research and it shows."
Exactly.
Right. So actually, because we can be precise, we undermine our own credibility because we know how precise it could be. So we focus on how much it could be and not how much it should be. Because how good data do you need to have to make a decision? So you kind of have a tendency to try to hide behind perfect. I'm still trying to get perfect data, but there's this wonderful Japanese term called wabi-sabi, which means that you accept that the world is imperfect and everything is going to be destroyed over time, right? So everything is breakable. So just accepting that, so you will get these beautiful like pottery shots where they've been stitched together with golds, and have that acceptance, saying that it's never going to be perfect. You might have perfect data for a second, and then somebody is going to do something to corrupt it. And I like this term because it's like it tells that don't go for perfect, go for what you can have, and then build from there.
Yesterday's brainstorm was so good. I really liked Steph's idea of running that test on the call to action buttons. Making them orange will really make them stand out, don't you think?
Yeah, right. Do you want to design real A/B test winners and achieve enormous conversion uplift? Then stop brainstorming and take a scientific approach. If you can read Dutch, follow the steps in Online Invloed, the bestseller on managementbook.nl. Or enroll in the author's course and become an expert in applying proven behavioral science yourself. Go to onlineinfluence.com for more information and free downloads. We just spoke about internal communication, that we should be probably a bit better about that. And in line with that, in communication, I've seen, I follow you on Twitter. I've seen a lot of Clubhouse links on your Twitter. So I think we're all exploring a bit what Clubhouse is and what it can do for us. For people that haven't used Clubhouse yet, what is Clubhouse?
So Clubhouse is, of course, another variation of a social media. It's an audio platform. So basically, it's like a podcast, but it's not being recorded. So you go in and you have a conversation. So hopefully you invite some people who will be there. You set a topic. And basically, it's an open forum where you can have a conversation about a topic you like. Right? So I do a lot of talks on Clubhouse on analytics. But I think that what I like, it's there's a good energy and it's a good conversation. It's not requiring a lot of preparation. And if you get to do the right sessions, you really get to take some stuff away. So, and I think that it's kind of like a soft podcast, right? Because it's just a conversation. You can't share links. You can't share images. You can only share your words. Now, I saw one actually using her image, which is the only thing that you can put things in your profile, or you can change your image. And she actually used her image to share graphs and screen dumps. It was quite original. So, but
that's cool.
I hadn't seen that coming. I think that was fun.
Yeah, it's the only way. You can't even send a DM or something. Yeah.
No. So the only time you can message people is when you invite them, or when you push for now you're going to do a session. And if you're in a session, you can actually try to bring in more people to the session by nudging them so you can invite them. But it's not the core thing. Right. So the key thing is the conversation, and it has been crazy in the sense that there has been a lot of celebrities on there. Elon Musk was on, and he actually broke it because there were so many people wanting to be in the room and hearing what he had to say. But there's rooms that has been going on for. So you had like one moderator start the room, and then after a while he left, but the conversation continued. So like I think think 72 hours for the same room, different people talking about the same subject over time, just changing the crowd in there. So it's all about the conversation. And I think it's good in the sense that everybody can speak up. So everybody can raise their hands and be brought to stage. So it's very much about the room. There are some mega rooms where you have like a couple of thousand people listening in. And I don't really, well, for me, that's not Clubhouse. For me, Clubhouse is the intimate conversation where everybody can get heard and everybody can share. And that's part of my thoughts on community sharing.
And so did you start your own group, your own club on there, or are you continuously joining other clubs and talk about analytics?
No. It wasn't until Saturday here on the March the 6th or something that Clubhouse actually opened up for other people to start clubs. So until then there was a wait list, but now they said if you're active you can start 2 clubs a month. So I started a club on Saturday called Data Driven People. So it's still in its infancy, but the idea is trying to build the conversation. And I think so far we have like, I think 40 members or something, but going international. So having these nerds that loves to talk about data and how to use it, how to drive things with data.
So we'll add a link. We add a link to your Clubhouse club in the comments for people
that would be awesome.
1, have Clubhouse, and 2, have an iPhone. That's a combination that you need to have right now.
But you can also join on an iPad. So that's kind of a thing that most people tend to overlook. And I think these days there's a lot of redundant iPads lying in people's drawers and attic because their kids no longer use them. So, and Clubhouse is not a demanding piece of software, right? It's just basically just a chat software. So in that sense, there is the main thing and the challenge with Clubhouse right now is actually on privacy, because and if you're into privacy, then Clubhouse is something you should be wary of. Because they are based in the US and they record the conversation. The first thing they do, where to enter, you have to give them access to your phone book so they know who you know. Wow. But so technically Clubhouse has a copy of your phone book. But I don't think so. If you leave Clubhouse, then they will keep your phone book. So there are a couple of things, and that is in on the dark side. But I think they're working on getting it in order.
LinkedIn, Facebook, and WhatsApp did similar things, right?
Yeah, in the beginning. Yeah,
in the beginning. Yeah.
And I think just for Clubhouse,
apps growth hack their way to
to success. Because if you had to go in there and you had to enter all the contacts you might want to have there, then it would be really slow, right? This is the lazy man solution. We'll compromise a bit of personal security, and if we have people in our phone book, we should probably delete them for the occasion, or hide them, and just be wary saying that shouldn't have referral information to our bank account or whatever we might have in there. Like, I know people who use their phone book to save copies of their password for their credit card, which is suboptimal, right? But with that said, I think I really think that Clubhouse is a good platform. I know that Twitter is also pushing something similar.
How do you think this is going to how this platform is works for you as an well, you always were on stage a lot and at conferences a lot. Is this like a Corona replacement for going to conferences?
In some sense, I think, but it's actually more on the networking side than it's on the presentation side. I can see that I go there and do presentations, but I will never do something on my own, just trying to do 1 hour of stand-up presentation or anything. It will always be around the conversation. And in that sense, it's much more including, right? It's much more like a measure camp or a DA hub where you have the conversation around it, more than just being a one-way presentation. If I want to do a one-way presentation, I'll do a webcast. So this is more like an awesome platform for Q&As and dialogue. It's the Ask Me Anythings of the world that can take place there, right? We even try to run a concept now called Ask Anyone Anything. So you can actually if you come to a room, ask somebody else something from the same room. So from that perspective, I think that it's really interesting as a platform.
Yeah, I still can imagine that it can be quite daunting for someone that's not necessarily extroverted and wants to be on stage or put on stage. Well, you're not physically on the stage, but in Clubhouse terms, to put on the stage and ask someone. You cannot just send some anonymous chat to the room for people to answer. You have to be vocal about it, literally.
Yeah, you have to speak up.
Yeah, but if you don't want that, you can always sit down and listen to it.
Exactly. So and you do have the thing. So even if you stand up, it's just your voice. It's not your face. You're not on camera when you ask the question, right?
Yep.
So it's just your icon that will be blinking. So you can actually also people use another icon than your face. Yeah, people won't see your face. So you can be scared shitless and still ask good questions.
Yeah, exactly.
And if people don't get the question, then they'll try to specify it.
Exactly, and you can help them with that, of course, if you ask the question and make it as relevant for you as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I want to talk to you about a bit. So at Emer's Google Analytics User Conference, you spoke about the title of your session was Data Activation and Supercharging the Consumer Journey with Analyst Data. And one thing in there you said is that the higher speed of data facilitates a change of focus from being very reactive, like we just spoke about, sending those reports every 3 months, saying and then my job is done, to being way more complex and actually doing live optimization and personalization across channels. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think we're seeing a major shift in the market right now, that we're going from reactive optimization to proactive personalization. So it's actually one of the places where I see a huge value in the learnings we have from A/B tests. And one of the places that I've seen is that we have had a tendency so far to discard the losing version. But in reality, the losing version will actually, in many cases, be a preferable version for some people. So you will actually could have a subsegment that preferred the version that is being thrown away. So with the new speed of data, we can actually go in and we can not just show the winning version to everybody. We can actually go and show the losing version to the segment for whom it was the winning version, right? So it's no longer, we're moving away from one size fits all, because the site can actually respond to your behavior. And I think that is one of the big things that is happening right now. The sites are being changed from being something static to being something living that will respond to you.
Will this work? Maybe not. Isn't that what we're all trying to figure out? With VWO, create and A/B test different variations of your website to continuously discover the best performing versions that improve conversions. Stop guessing. Start A/B testing with VWO today.
Yeah. And what do you think is going to drive this change? Because I think we're talking about personalization for the past at least 5 years. Seriously, that this is the year of personalization. So what are the technological changes that you see that will actually enable us to hopefully finally, or companies to finally invest in this and do it?
Yeah, so for me, it's very much like I talked about the speed of data, right? So now you can actually, when you come to my website, I can in less than an eighth of a second have some variation back at you that is matching your user profile. So I can send a message to BigQuery. BigQuery can analyze your behavior and send your preferences back. And then the site will start to adapt to you instead of just adapting to something general. So that speed is actually where I see that is going to be driving a lot of change. But it's also going to hopefully be driving a lot more testing, because what we need is more variations in relations to how we should proceed. So it's a perfect time to start doing testing, but instead of throwing tests away, then saving them and actually adding the information to the data. But it's the speed. Basically, the technologies have come so far that it's becoming a prerequisite that we do more with it.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's also about the cost of marketing, because right now with the cost of marketing have increased to a level that we need to get more out of our marketing bucks. So we are basically forced to either start improving our conversion rate even more, and we can only do that by focusing on the segments and not generalizing the conversion rate. So instead of saying, yeah, I have a conversion rate of 3%, well, technically I can break it down and say, yeah, I have a conversion rate of 8% for this segment and 1% for this segment and 6% here. So I need to really focus on the 1%. How can I improve the conversion rate for them? So like everything else, the conversion rate is going to be segmented or broken down into two individual segments, because then we can start micro optimizing for individuals instead, and having that process automated, that will help a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's a good thing for CRO people that marketing is finally becoming so expensive that the companies are looking into CRO more and more, and actually optimizing the website instead of just throwing more people on the website.
Exactly. So that's actually one of the things, because the only alternative they have is what we also see as a trend right now, is an increased focus on customer lifetime value, that you have to get them back, right? So it's not just selling once. So it's optimize or and lifetime. So having this split in relation to things is really where we see the big changes coming right now.
Do you see a big role for Google Analytics 4 in that sense, in the speed of data?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there's so for instance, in Google Analytics 4, if you look at the Firebase side, there is actually a built-in A/B testing tool, so you can technically use it for targeting as well. So based on behavior in the system, you can change things. You can, if you extend, you can take the conversions in Google Analytics 4 and actually use them as conversion points. Well, you can use the conversion points for activation with Cloud Functions through BigQuery. So you can actually saying, if somebody converts to something or does a specific action, then I will send them a mail, or I will do this, or I will add them to this segment, or I will include them. I will have my marketing automation tool paste them here. Yep. So suddenly everything gets tied much closer together. And I think people are underestimating the change that is coming with Google Analytics 4 if they want to use it fully. It is really interesting. I know you had the pleasure of hearing all the sessions at Immerse, so I know you know that the level of nerdiness that's possible to go to with these things is incredible.
Yeah. I think my main takeaways from that event were that Google Analytics 4, basically, if you're not using the dashboarding interface, then it's basically ready, just as ready as Universal or Google Analytics 3 was. If you're going to use BigQuery anyway, then you might as well right away make the switch and use it, because that part is basically as ready as it's going to be. If you heavily rely on the dashboarding, then Google Analytics, you might need to stick with Universal for a bit.
Yeah.
And I think, my biggest learning from the day was, I think, the reason why Google actually started building Google Analytics 4, and they told us that they were basically looking at how much data, how much power, how much warehouse power and footprint they needed to support Google Analytics, to support Universal. They said, well, we can't keep this up. I mean, a lot of websites obviously run analytics, or a lot of data, a lot of bandwidth goes into that. So we make in order to be able to reach our green objectives, our environmental objectives, we need to change. Change Google Analytics. It had nothing to do with the data structure or the setup there. Of course, that resulted from that. Thought it was a fun learning of that day.
But there's also, and this is how we say, the conspiracy theory, right? So this is saying, okay, so why did Google do it? Well, one of the things that they have that it does, it actually, if you're using the BigQuery site, then suddenly you become part of Google Cloud. So, and to be part of Google Cloud, you have to give your credit card. Yeah, exactly. And then, and suddenly, you can say
all those free users of Google Universal become paid users.
Yeah, exactly. But only once you hit a certain amount, I think that there will. It's always going to be free to a certain level, right? But right now, one of the biggest hurdle Google has is all the bastards who do not comply and only gather 10 million hits a month, right? Yeah. But now with if they can get these guys to BigQuery, then it's fine. Then they say, yeah, the first 10 million are free, but hey, I'm sorry, Guido, you had 50 million this month. Don't worry about it. We sent you a bill. Oh, no, we didn't. We already pulled it off your credit card. So don't worry. Keep them coming. It's like,
don't worry. Yeah, exactly. You're already billed. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. You already billed. You don't have to worry. There's a bill coming. You already paid. So for them, that simplifies their business model. And at the same time, it opens up because all the other functions you get with cloud, like cloud functions, like the A/B testing things, like you can use authentication, it all has a itty-bitty teeny price tag, right? Yeah. So suddenly by extending Google Analytics in this direction towards cloud, first off, they get more users on cloud, making them more competitive compared to Azure and AWS and all the other guys out there. And at the same time, they get a itty-bitty stream of cash coming in that hopefully will grow as they expand this offering.
And in the end, it probably won't make them any greener, but that's a nice marketing talk, but at least they're making money out of it.
Yeah, exactly. What was the thing? It might make their, what's the green dollars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It'll make them greener in dollars.
Yeah.
But the other story is nicer. And this is just speculations. But I think from a business perspective, it makes sense. So
exactly. What do you think are the main challenges for people in CRO or companies in general to make the switch to Google Analytics 4?
I think it's actually understanding the change. I think you know this that people underestimate what it is they're supposed to do, because the last 7 times there's been an upgrade to Google Analytics, it meant that I had to go and change a script, and then it was basically SSDD, same shit, different day. But now it's actually something completely different that you actually have to flip the thinking, and for me, I think we just we're finalizing a project with a customer where they're building a new website, and in the transition they want to do a transition to GA4 at the same time. So what we actually did was we went in before any design and before anything, and we looked at their business and decided what was the KPIs for the business and what was this new site going to be measured on. And then that was part of the briefing to the design agency. So we actually reversed the entire process. It wasn't like, then we have to fold the site to match these objectives afterwards. We actually set the objective first and then told the agency, this is what your ability to deliver on this is what you're going to be measured on. So that was kind of crow first, which is really interesting, or data first, because you need to have this thinking and also a focus on what data do we need. It's really easy to set something up in GA4 where you really fast go in and have too much data. So Google, you can make Google mighty rich.
Yeah, and your credit card maxed out.
Yeah, exactly.
What are those changes in thinking that you're talking about? What changes do people need to make when approaching Google Analytics 4?
Yeah, so they need to do so. Basically, they need to, with Google Analytics, traditionally, that you've just been able to implement the tool and just set it up, and then it would be gathering stuff from the beginning. But here now, you need to actually say, what do I want to track? It's minimal what you get out of the box. So what events are important for me to track on my site or across my site and across everything I can track? And then build your data strategy and your data on that. Right? And at the same time, you get the ability to actually engage with a lot of other stuff outside of Google Analytics and firing data in a lot of different directions and pulling data from other places as well. So this combination of much more targeted analytics, it's basically, well, it's the different from Adobe Analytics and Google Analytics, what it's been today. And people who have done a Adobe Analytics setup knows that it's a lot more complex because it's a Formula One car that is being built for the specific track it's going to run on. And Google Analytics that we're used to is like a good standard car being driven out of the factory. Yeah, we can pimp it a bit and we can put in a more powerful engine and we can do stuff, but it's been kind of given, right? So the difference between those two, the Formula One car and the standard car, that is where we are today.
So do you think this is this kind of drives us to all be more professional about it, or do you expect a lot of people to drop off because it becomes much more difficult?
No, I think that is Google's concern, that a lot more people will drop off. So I'm pretty sure that we'll see some 3 clicks and you have an installation. So a lot of prefab installations that will be like a middleware, right? Where we go in and say, yeah, this is an e-commerce site. I also want to retain customers. I also want to do this. And then Google will have a 1, 2, 3. This is the setup you need. So you get something that is
like templates.
Templates, yeah. But a templated setup will never be able to outcompete a custom setup, right? And I think that is where the nerds will deliver a competitive advantage, that you're actually able to go closer to the business and type, much closer to home when it comes to the result and what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. What are you looking for besides GA4? What are you looking for to working on the next, say, the next year?
For us, what we see, we see a problem in data loss right now. With cookie compliance going on, we see the average site, if you are compliant, in average, you're losing between 20 and 60% of your Google Analytics data. The main problem has been that with the increase in online traffic due to Corona, this number has basically been hit for most people because they have been seeing their numbers go up.
Yeah.
So what they haven't seen is that the numbers have basically been undermined because they're compliant and they're losing data. So we've been working a lot with our customers on, how can you say, recapturing lost data or making sure that they're no longer losing data. And the challenge here is saying that to do that, we need to do it in a way that is still compliant. So it's with a GTM server side, which is one of the new things. Again, it would be easy to cheat. But the problem is if you cheat, then you risk the fines and you risk everything. So working on a solution that is actually, say, compliant in spirit and in the intent of the law, so that it's long term, right? So not just having something that is a quick fix, because I think quick fixes are the reasons why we are where we are today. So what we've done is we basically set up so if somebody comes to a website, they will, and they decline consent, they will not be removed from the tracking. They will simply be run through an anonymization engine. So all the things that potentially could be used to identify them at a later level is removed. And any chance of cookies and stuff are being removed, but you keep the session. So you are still able to see all your users and what they did. Now you just have 2 different data sets. You have your general users and you have your anonymized users. And then what we see is that for the anonymized users, technically what you can do is you can start trying to find ways to get them to connect, to actually give consent after the fact, because you give them something of added value if they can do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So suddenly you have a different crow track that is saying, I have these anonymized users, and the objective here is to get the consent. So I can move them from anonymized, and then I can start building from there.
Data about them.
Yeah. So
nice.
So having that built is really interesting, and we've seen some good numbers already on it, and people are really surprised in general by how much data they've lost.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because by losing this data, you lose the ability to have transparency in your marketing. If you buy 100 people coming in from AdWords, but you can only see what 60 of them did, then it's real difficult for you to determine your return on AdWords.
Yep.
So that is the complexity of where we see things going right now.
Stijn, thank you so much for joining me for an episode. My final question for you: who should I invite for an upcoming Zero Cafe episode?
Yeah. So
what's the person you'd like to hear yourself?
Yeah. So I would like to hear, and it's kind of an overlap, but it's Juliana Jackson. Also go on. So you can find her on LinkedIn. The CLV lady. She's very outspoken and
from OmniConvert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she has some strong opinions in relations to Crow and Crow tactics in correlations with customer lifetime value. So I think that is a good would be an interesting area to explore. Saying Crow versus CLV, the two triple letter abbreviations against each other.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I know Juliana, but she hasn't been on the show yet. So definitely need to get her on sometimes if she has time.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be. Yeah, I hope she does.
Thanks.
So,
I hope she does too. I'll send her a message right after and try to get her for an episode. And Stijn, thank you so much. Great talking to you again, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And this concludes Season 3, Episode 15 of the Zero Cafe podcast with Stijn Rasmussen. Make sure to check out the show notes on the Zero Cafe website for links to some additional information on today's topic. In the next episode, I'll be talking to Alexander Ivanyuk. He's a senior software engineer at LinkedIn and tech lead of their experimentation platform team. And that's also what we're going to talk about, experimentation at LinkedIn. Talk to you then, and always be optimizing.